This hour, I'm Ashmit Kumar, and here are the headlines that we're tracking this evening. It's the best week of 2025 so far. Nifty gains 2% this week despite a flat close on Friday. All sectoral indices end in the green. Rupee gains nearly 1% against the dollar this week, marking the biggest weekly gain in 2 years. Top global investors upbeat on India. Howard Marks of Oaktree Capital says that India has incredible opportunities and a constructive government. Mark Combs of Ashmore Group says that they are massively overweight on India and underweight on China. US President Trump blames globalists for the recent stock market sell-off, offers a major reprieve to Canada and Mexico from the 25% tariffs by exempting goods covered under the North American Trade Agreement. US Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent says that tariffs are much needed course adjustment, says nations will have a choice to avoid reciprocal tariffs from the 2nd of April if they drop the trade barriers. That's a CNBC exclusive.
Regulatory bodies, market participants and corporates must uphold the highest standards of governance, disclosures and ethical practices.
Tuhin Kanta Pandey, in his first media address as SEBI chairperson, cautions that the regulator needs to be more transparent on conflict of interest off the board, says that SEBI will be coming forward with its own plan, also adds that the regulator will engage with FPIs to address their concerns. Supreme Court questions the Maharashtra government for awarding the Dharavi redevelopment project to the Adani Group, seeks a response from authorities and Adani after a rival bidder alleges a scandal. The Apex Court refuses to stay the project for now, but orders escrow for payments. RBI raises concerns over co-lending pacts in the process of examining cases where such pacts are leading to higher interest rates for the borrower. Sources say that the scrutiny also comes in light of high number of partnerships in the unsecured loan segment. Top World Bank executive Anna Bjerde says that not many countries have a growth track record like India. Many countries have a growth track record unlike India, adds GDP can go up by 1% if female participation in the labor force goes up to 50%. That's an exclusive. President Trump restrains Elon Musk's DOGE as concerns mount over the scale of job losses, tells cabinet secretaries to take the lead on cost cutting and protect the most productive civil servants. Karnataka government's annual budget crosses 4 lakh crore rupees for the first time. Revenue deficit projected to fall by 30%. 90,000 crore rupees allocated for women-centric schemes. Price of movie tickets capped at 200 rupees. State government also plans to launch an OTT platform for Kannada movies. A second failure for Elon Musk's Mars mission. The SpaceX Starship explodes minutes after liftoff, ending an attempt to deploy mock satellites. Well, let's start with the market action for the day and a flat close to what has been the best week of 2025 so far. The Nifty ended marginally in the green. The sensex and the mid-cap index ended in the red. But for the week, Nifty is up 2%. Mid-caps are up 3% and small-cap index is up 5%. In fact, all sectoral indices ended in the green this week. Manglam Malu is joining us now with a quick wrap of the market trading action for this week. Manglam.
The way to sum up this market or the market this week is bulls claw back. Have the bulls fought back? Not yet. Are the bulls back? Not yet. They've clawed back to survive another week. The good part is we've outperformed the global markets after recent underperformance. The Nifty is up after 3 weeks of losses as well. So if you look at the Nifty, weekly losses, after 3 weeks of losses, we've ended up higher by about 2% in this week itself. All the major indices are in the green. The Nifty is up 2%. We saw some underperformance from the Nifty Bank and the mid-cap index. But if you look at, rather the Nifty Bank and the IT index, but if you look at the mid-cap and the small-cap indices, they have outperformed as well. So portfolios would be feeling good. Nearly all through this week, we had advances far outnumbering the declines itself. So just looking at a couple of factors, what could have led the market to stabilize in this week itself. The most important factor was the stability that we saw in the dollar index itself. The dollar index started this week at around 107, thereafter declined to about 104, initiating some strength in the rupee. That was further, further strengthened by the fact that the FII selling in cash market reduced. The street is coming to terms with Trump's tariff policies. It's wibbly wobbly on a daily basis, but now the street believes that it will be rational. And towards the end, we saw Reliance end about 5% higher in the last couple of trading sessions of the week. That powered the bulls ahead as well. We also saw recovery from oversold levels. We had been seeing 5 months of losses up until February. So as a result of which, from oversold levels, we did see a bit of a bounce back as well. Some of the high beta names came back in fashion. Metals was a good performing index. We saw BEL on the Nifty do extremely well as well. And a lot of these other stocks as well, like Eicher Motors reporting good numbers, did well. Bajaj Auto, Maruti reported weak numbers. We saw some weakness out there. And a lot of the other mid-cap stocks as well outperformed. The only stock on the downside this week was Gensol, down about 41% for the entire week. But then again, that's because of problems of its own. By and large, a good week. Next week, extremely crucial to track.
Right, Mangalam, thanks a lot for that. Mangalam there wearing the jersey, clearly evident with team he's supporting for the Champions Trophy final coming this Sunday. Thanks a lot, Mangalam, for that update. Now, the rupee ended a sharp 0.3% higher today, closing at 86.87 per dollar. The rupee has gained nearly 1% this week, marking the biggest rally in 2 years. The continuing fall in the dollar index helped in the unwinding of long dollar positions. So where are the markets headed from here on? Well, how will Trump's tariff impact the world? Important questions that are being asked. Two major global voices, in fact, we managed to have a word with Howard Marks of Oak Tree Capital and Mark Combs of Ashmore Group. Both are upbeat on India.
You know, China has done very well for the last 30 plus years. If they settle on the right policies, it can continue to do well. But it has to make up its mind about whether it's going to be truly socialist or encourage the private sector. India, on the other hand, has a growing population, and coming off a low base, it has incredible opportunities. And of course, you have a very constructive government right now, which is trying to move this country ahead. My last visit here was exactly 8 years ago. I feel a different energy today, and India seems very positive. It has benefited from the fact that so many people see China in a less positive light today. I'm optimistic on India.
And based on very long-term numbers, you could say that the level of PE, et cetera, was high in terms of a 25, 30-year period where it should have been, particularly in the small and mid-cap space. But it was also people going, well, hang on a minute, I'm an emerging market investor with a global fund. It's about relative value. And China had been slammed for so long. And the big way we've outperformed in equities over the last 4 years, to be honest, was massively overweight India 3 or 4 years ago and underweight China. And a lot of global investors have switched that trade. They've said China is so cheap. The monetary policy bazooka in China was fired in September. They are getting serious about the fiscal. Eventually, you will get some level of growth coming back.
Well, the newly appointed SEBI chairperson, Tuhin Kanta Pandey, has cautioned that the regulator needs to be more transparent on conflict of interest of the board. He said that SEBI will be coming forward with its own plan. Pandey was speaking at the Money Control Global Wealth Summit in what was his first media address after taking charge as the SEBI chief. He said that the regulator is willing to engage with foreign investors and take steps to ease regulations where required.
As we intend to grow in the speed that we are aspiring, we need to have both domestic and foreign capital to support the growth momentum. We at SEBI are conscious about the need to create conducive environment to attract foreign capital. We will be happy to engage with FPI and AIF industry participants to address their difficulties and further rationalize regulations to promote ease of operation. Maintaining trust and transparency in the financial ecosystem is paramount. A well-regulated market instills confidence among investors, ensuring fair and efficient capital allocation. And I think the trust and transparency extends to SEBI itself. We need to not only create trust of all stakeholders in us, but we also need to maintain that trust. And to that extent, I think we need to be more transparent, including on various other measures, including, for example, on the conflict of interest of the board and so on. And we will be coming forward with our own plan to further transparently, reveal these conflict of interest, etc., to the public.
Well, staying with action from the Mint Street, NSE CEO Ashish Kumar Chauhan has said that there needs to be one single day for weekly expiry across exchanges. Speaking at the Money Control Global Wealth Summit, Chauhan added that investors may see multiple exchanges come up with weekly expiries. Remember, NSE announced that all Nifty index weekly and monthly contracts will expire on Monday instead of Thursday.
Whatever was the SEBI's perspective of reducing daily expiry, I don't think is going to be met if we continue to have multiple exchanges having expiries on different days. So for me, if you want to really remove that, you need to have one single day, whichever way. And then, but if your purpose is to have multiple, then probably you'll have 15-20 days also being asked in a week.
Well, in some global news now, U.S. President Donald Trump has temporarily halted tariffs targeting Canada and Mexico under the North American Trade Agreement. However, this temporary ban will be lifted on 2nd of April after the reciprocal tariffs kick in. Trump has also blamed globalists for the recent stock market sell-off. U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent told CNBC that tariffs are a much-needed course adjustment, says that nations will have a choice to either avoid reciprocal tariffs from the 2nd of April, that is, if they drop the trade barriers.
I spoke to the president of Mexico, wonderful woman, today, and we helped them out with the problem they were having to do with the tariffs, short-term tariffs. And we had a very good conversation. Also, we discussed drugs, and they were working much harder lately. Do you notice that? On people coming in and drugs. And we've made tremendous progress on both.
At the end of the day, President Trump's been saying tariff is his favorite word. I think reciprocal may be his second favorite word. And we're going to put this at the feet of our trading partners on April 2nd. We're going to come out, talk about who's a good actor, who's a bad actor, to what degree they have put up barriers against us, and it'll be a choice. Either they can drop all the market manipulation and things like that they've done that have hurt American workers, and if they do that, then we could have more frictionless trade, or we'll put up the tariff wall, we'll collect a lot of money, and we will make the system fairer.
Now, India's External Affairs Ministry has confirmed that India and the US are in the process of advancing negotiations on a trade agreement. Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal was in Washington, D.C. earlier this week to meet with his US counterparts. This follows Prime Minister Modi's meeting with the President Trump, in the White House last month. Trump has threatened to hit India with reciprocal tariffs from the 2nd of April. Here is the External Affairs Ministry spokesperson on the talks between both nations.
The two governments are in the process of advancing discussions on a multi-sector bilateral trade agreement. And as you would have seen in a joint statement also, I would like to repeat what we had mentioned there. Our objective through the BTA is to strengthen and deepen India-US two-way trade across goods and services, increase market access, reduce tariff and non-tariff barriers, and deepen supply chain integration between the two countries.
Now, crude oil prices remained in a steady territory amidst uncertainty over the US tariff policy and OPEC Plus countries' decision to raise output. The prices are set for their biggest weekly decline since October of 2024. In the crypto market, meanwhile, prices of Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana and others declined even as US President Donald Trump signed an executive order establishing a strategic Bitcoin reserve. The move disappointed investors as it indicated that the US government will not be buying fresh Bitcoin. The announcement comes just ahead of the crypto summit at the US White House. And staying with the US President, the US President Trump has placed fresh limits on Elon Musk's Department of Government Efficiency, or famously known as DOGE. Taking it to Truth Social, President Trump said that the department must use a scalpel and not a hatchet to fire federal employees. Hinting that the layoffs must be more precise, he also said that the cabinet secretaries are in charge of laying off people and that Musk's role will be an advisory one. This statement comes a day after jobs data from the US showed a sharp rise in layoffs after Elon Musk's team began cutting US government workforce. According to a report, 1.7 lakh layoffs were announced in the month of February alone. This is 245% higher compared to the month of January. More than one-third of the layoffs are due to Elon Musk's efforts to reduce federal workforce.
So I had a meeting and I said, I want the cabinet members go first, keep all the people you want, everybody that you need. And it would be better if they were there for 2 years instead of 2 weeks, because in 2 years they'll know the people better. But I want them to do the best job they can. When we have good people, that's precious. That's very important. And we want them to keep the good people. And so we're going to be watching them, and Elon and the group are going to be watching them. And if they can cut, it's better. And if they don't cut, then Elon will do the cutting.
Now, World Bank's top executive, Bjerde, says that not many countries have a growth track record like India, but it needs to elevate growth further to meet its target of becoming a high-income economy by 2047. The World Bank's latest report estimated that India needs to grow by 7.8% on an average over the next 2 decades to achieve this status. In an exclusive conversation with Shireen Bhan, Bjerde said that India must focus on increasing 3 things: investment to GDP, female labor workforce participation, and productivity.
If India increases its investment to GDP from about 33% to 40% over the next 10 years, that would be very conducive towards that higher growth rate. If we estimate also if India increases from 35.6% female labor force participation to 50%, which of course is a nice parity number, GDP could go up by 1%. 1% in the case of India is of course very significant, because 1% of GDP translates to a lot of resources. And thirdly, we think there's an opportunity to get more out of increased productivity.
Now, the Reserve Bank has approved the reappointment of Sumant Katpalia as MD and CEO of IndusInd Bank for 1 year up to March of 2026. Remember, the bank had sought a 3-year extension. And on to a CNBC TV 18 exclusive. The Reserve Bank is currently examining cases where co-lending partnerships is resulting in higher rate of interest for the borrowers. Sources have told CNBC TV 18 that the industry participants said that the regulator has expressed discomfort with co-lending tie-ups between unregulated entities. The Supreme Court today has agreed to hear a plea by Seychelles-based SecLink Group. The company has claimed that tender conditions of the Dharavi redevelopment contract were tweaked to favor Adani Properties. In 2018, SecLink Technologies emerged as the highest bidder with an offer of 7,200 crore rupees. Maharashtra government had scrapped this bid and tweaked the tender conditions. In 2022, Adani emerged as the frontrunner with a bid of 5,000 crore rupees. SecLink termed this a scandal and said that it will raise its bid even further to 8,640 crore rupees. The Supreme Court has agreed to hear the plea and has issued a notice to Adani Properties and the Maharashtra government. In the interim, while no stay has been granted, the Supreme Court has directed Adani to make all payments for Dharavi through a single escrow account with detailed invoices. The Supreme Court noted that this contract will be subject to a final ruling. And with that, it's time now for slipping into a very short break. But coming up, Karnataka government's annual budget crosses 4 lakh crore rupees for the first time. Revenue deficit projected to fall by 30%. Details when we come back.
Every year we have 4,80,000 road accidents and 1,80,000 deaths. The most important culprit in all these events are civil engineers. the persons who are responsible, we should register FIR against them and take to them in custody. Actually, it is not good for us that in India we are facing a lot of crucial problem regarding the road accidents. Every year we have 4,80,000 road accidents and 1,80,000 deaths. Probably we are highest in the world. Out of these deaths, 66.4%, that is 1,14,000, are in the age group of 18 to 45. And their loss of the GDP, 3% loss in GDP. The loss of young people who are doctors, engineers, and very important young talented youth, where actually this is to be a great loss for our country. Sometime this is to be going to create a big problem for the families, and the senior people has to face a lot of problem after the deaths of their young talented youth. It will not be appropriate for me to criticize the people, but it's my responsibility to tell you the truth about it. The most important culprit in this, all these events are civil engineers. I don't blame everybody. But today I am directly taking the name because after 10 years.
Welcome back. Now, India is pioneering an approach towards bringing an evolution in the startup ecosystem by introducing Startup Mahakumbh. The event will be attended by delegates participating from all over the world. This initiative will cater to areas concerning geopolitical tensions and tariff wars. CNBC TV 18's Abhimanyu Sharma takes a deep dive into what this innovation has to offer.
India is aiming to make the upcoming Startup Mahakumbh in April 2025 the world's biggest such event, with delegates from over 50 countries in attendance. With geopolitical tensions, trade wars and tariffs ruling the discourse, here is what the government and the startup ecosystem has to say in terms of opportunities and challenges.
We learned from the best practices of US and other countries that the corporate houses drive the innovation through grand challenges. And this time we have incorporated this in a very big way.
Not to, be discouraged by obstacles, barriers, but to go on and try to, for example, to team up with friends, to team up with a friendly country in this case.
FIIs are going from public markets. Startups raise money from private sources. So there is no shortage of private capital. Venture capital is available, angel money is available. New enterprises succeed, some of them, and some of them do fail. Some of them take longer to succeed. That's a part of the market process. It's the startup industry is Darwinian in nature, fundamentally. It's survival of the fittest. My advice to entrepreneurs is keep trying.
What the founders need to do is have a realistic business model to be marketed in a realistic manner, and then also to talk about what are the potential risks. If people express their business models in a realistic way, I think they will get funding and they will get the trust of the investors. Thirdly, I think the founders have to also be sure that they get the right kind of investors on their side, because they also need help.
With the rupees 10,000 crores of capital invested in startups leveraged to rupees 91,000 crores, the government in the second phase of the Fund of Funds scheme is looking to fund hardware and product-based development to propel the manufacturing sector in India along with its share in the GDP. However, the advice by experts to startups is to succeed with money from customers and not investors. In New Delhi, this is Abhimanyu Sharma for CNBC TV 18.
Now, the Karnataka government's annual budget has crossed 4 lakh crore rupees for the first time. 90,000 crore rupees has been allocated for women-centric schemes. Ritu Singh gets us the key highlights.
Well, Karnataka Chief Minister Siddaramaiah presented his record 16th budget in a speech that lasted more than 3.5 hours, with the budget outlay crossing 4 lakh crores for the very first time up from 3.7 lakh crores in the previous year. Now that included revenue expenditure of about 3.1 lakh crores and capital expenditure of more than 71,000 crore rupees. The budget was focused on welfare schemes, infrastructure, industrial growth, with a focus on minorities and boosting Bengaluru's infrastructure. However, this budget has also been a revenue deficit budget like the previous years, and the fiscal deficit is pegged at 2.95% of the state GDP. In terms of the key allocations, about 94,000 crores is allocated for women-centric programs, about 62,000 crores for children-centric programs, 50,000 crores for roads and transport, another 32,000 crores for the education sector. Now, Bengaluru is getting a major infrastructure boost. The city's annual grant has been more than doubled to 7,000 crores in this budget. About 1,800 crores has been set aside for brand Bengaluru projects with new flyovers, roads that are planned, as well as an expansion for the metro project as well. A huge focus area has been minority support, with the state announcing a 4% reservation for Muslims in government tenders and contracts, 100 crores for Jain, Buddhist and Sikh community development, another 250 crores for Christian community development, and so on. Lastly, there's also some good news for cinema lovers, with the state capping the ticket prices for all movie theatres and multiplexes at rupees 200 and even proposing a state-sponsored OTT platform to promote Kannada cinema.
Well, the Chief Minister of Maharashtra, Devendra Fadnavis, says that there is no tension between him and the Deputy CM Eknath Shinde. Speaking at the Money Control Summit, Fadnavis called the media reports on tensions between him and Shinde as manufactured. Fadnavis refused to rule out a fractured alliance with Sharad Pawar and Uddhav Thackeray when asked about the possibility. Fadnavis was speaking to Money Control's Nalin Mehta. Take a look.
कई अटकलें हैं कि शिवसेना और आप में मतभेद चल रहा है, क्या मतभेद? कोई मतभेद नहीं है। हमारे मीडिया को जब कोई खबर नहीं मिलती तो वो खबर बना देते हैं। ये मैन्युफैक्चर्ड खबरें हैं। हम तीनों लोग एक साथ मिलकर राज्य को चला रहे हैं और अच्छा काम कर रहे हैं। और कई बार तो मुझे बड़ा आश्चर्य होता है जब मुझे मीडिया में देखने को मिलता है कि देवेंद्र फडणवीस इन्होंने एकनाथ शिंदे के काम पर स्टे दे दिया। मैंने आज हमारे हाउस में भी बताया कि भाई स्टे देने के लिए मैं उद्धव ठाकरे नहीं हूं, मैं तो काम करने वाला आदमी हूं। शिंदे जी रुष्ट नहीं है आपसे? एकदम नहीं। देखिए प्रॉब्लम क्या है, मैंने कई लोगों को ये बताया कि अभी शिंदे जी का एक अपना व्यक्तिमत्व है। उनके व्यक्तित्व में आप देखिए वो धीर गंभीर रहते, मैं हंसते हुए रहता हूं, वो धीर गंभीर रहते, गंभीरता उनके चेहरे पर है। अब जब तो मुख्यमंत्री थे तब भी गंभीर होते थे, तब किसी ने कहा कि शिंदे जी हंसते क्यों नहीं, ये गंभीर क्यों है। अब मुख्यमंत्री नहीं है तो उनका चेहरा दिखाते, देखिए शिंदे जी हंसी नहीं रहे, ये शिंदे जी नाराजी है। अरे भाई कोई आदमी अगर चेहरा ही उनका अगर गंभीर है तो हंसते हुए कैसे दिखेगा। अब मेरे चेहरे पे गंभीरता कम रहती है तो लोग ये कह सकते हैं कि गंभीर ही नहीं, आदमी ठीक नहीं है। तो ऐसा नहीं होता है, प्रत्येक हर एक व्यक्ति का अपना व्यक्तित्व होता है, उस हिसाब से उनका भी व्यक्तित्व है, कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं, हम साथ में है। आपके आजकल ऑपोजिशन से रिश्ते कैसे हैं ठाकरे जी के साथ, पवार साहब के साथ?
मैं बदले के लिए नहीं, बदलाव के लिए आया हूं, इसलिए मैं बदला नहीं लेना चाहता, मैं बदलाव करना चाहता हूं, मैं संवाद करना चाहता हूं। मेरा फोकस ये एक प्रकार से डेवलपमेंट है। तो मैं ऐसा मानता हूं कि एक प्रकार से जो एक रिलेशनशिप ठीक होनी चाहिए ऐसी रिलेशनशिप है। फॉर्चुनेटली महाराष्ट्र में हम लोग आज भी एक दूसरे से बात कर सकते हैं, हमारे में इतनी दूरियां नहीं है कि हम बातचीत ही नहीं कर सकते। हाँ, ये बात अलग है कि सही समय उन्होंने मेरा फोन उठाया होता तो अलग बात होती, लेकिन उद्धव जी ने फोन ही नहीं उठाया तो ये सारी चीजें यहां पर हो गई। बट अभी वो भी मेरा उठाते हैं, मैं भी उनका उठाता हूं।
तो अब दोनों एक दूसरे के फोन उठा रहे हैं तो फिर से साठगांठ हो सकती है?
देखिए फोन पे हम लोग साठगांठ की बात नहीं करते, अभी ये साठ नहीं और गांठ नहीं है, ये आप गांठ बांध लीजिए कि कोई साठगांठ नहीं है।
तो आप कह रहे हैं कि कभी एनसीपी के साथ आपका फिर से अरेंजमेंट नहीं होगा?
देखिए मुझे ऐसा दिखाई नहीं पड़ता। मैं आजकल बड़ा बच के बात करता हूं क्योंकि पॉलिटिक्स में नेवर से नेवर होता है, कब क्या हो जाए। और पिछले 5 सालों ने तो हमको ये सिखा दिया कि पॉलिटिक्स में कोई भी किसी के साथ कभी भी जा सकता है, इसलिए बड़ा बच के बात करता हूं। लेकिन जो पॉलिटिकल सिनारियो मुझे दिखाई पड़ता है, जो हमारी दिशा दिखाई पड़ती है, उसमें अब शरद पवार जी के साथ या उद्धव जी के साथ हमारा कोई गठबंधन हो सकता है, ऐसी परिस्थिति नहीं है।
Well, Devendra Fadnavis there with his mantra, never say never. With that, it's a wrap on this edition of India Business Hour. Thank you so much for watching. News and updates will continue right here on CNBC TV 18.